Don't miss out on the Casual Sports Show, Monday nights from 8 to 9 with the voice of the Bird Gang, Casual E. All on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060.
I know this is Arizona and Arizona State country, but here's a little Ohio State, the Ohio State University, hang on Sloopy. Like I said, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I'm always repping the Block O. When you hear this music, that means that I'm about to have my man Jonesy on to talk about our ongoing Ohio State-Penn State rivalry with the spring games just wrapping up over the last few weeks. We got a really good look at Ohio State at Dwayne Haskins, who's the heir apparent to the throne of J.T. Barrett. And we have a huge game coming up this year once again with Penn State University, one of our arch rivals, because Ann Arbor Community College has fallen off the face of the earth. So I will bring Jonesy on. Now, Jonesy, I've got a little out of pocket at times with the Ohio State-Penn State rivalry and called and referred to Jonesy as, quote, my son. He is the reigning Super Bowl champion, being from Philadelphia and an Eagles fan. So I can't call him my son right now. I'm really his son currently, especially with the work that the Indianapolis Colts have been doing. But this is a college conversation, and I'm always going to be the dominant one. What's going on, Jonesy?
Oh, what's going on, Lance? I'm good. How's everything going on with you?
Hey man, it's 106 degrees already out here in Phoenix, man. I'm not ready. It's my first full year out here, so it's interesting with the weather. Have you looked at any of the spring game tape or followed Penn State? What are you guys going to do? I mean, I have to rip you over that because that's all I have going for me right now. I know that the Colts are terrible. You haven't even ripped into me about being an Orioles fan, and the Orioles are literally the worst team in the MLB. So all I have to clutch onto is the Ohio State University. What's Penn State looking like?
Penn State, I mean, we still got our quarterback McSorley in place, so it'll be an interesting year. I expect Penn State to at least have a puncher's chance. With a quarterback in place, you always at least have a shot. Of course, you lost a major, major piece of what you did the last couple years to the NFL with Saquon Barkley going to the Giants. So you've got a big, big opportunity for a couple young players to step in, but it's going to be an interesting season. This won't be the year that I call Big Ten championship or anything for Penn State, but they should be a 9+ win team at least this year.
And Ohio State has to go to Penn State this year, so it's always difficult to go to Happy Valley and play. It's going to probably be a night game. It'll be a whiteout. There'll be 105,000 screaming fans. It's always a difficult game. Dwayne Haskins, this will be his first year at the helm as the quarterback of Ohio State, so that's going to be a tough game.
Absolutely. It's always fun when you have to come into Happy Valley to play. The whiteout always makes it interesting. But, if I'm going to be objective, which I try to be, I think Ohio State at this point would have the slight edge going into the season.
Yes, a little bit more than a slight edge. Ohio State is loaded this year. Last year, Ohio State really wasn't supposed to be good. They were on the cusp of making the college football playoff. This year, I don't want to say it should be a cakewalk, but they're vastly superior to Michigan State and Michigan and Penn State. Some homework for you. You know that my brand of radio is alienating people and taking pot shots. Although we cover Arizona State heavily, I do want to do a segment at some point where we break down your infinite knowledge and wisdom about sports and why Pac-12 football does not work versus the Big Ten and SEC.
We can do that whenever you want. I don't even need time to prepare for that.
Well, we'll put that on hold for the next time, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers, when I think of my viewpoint of them, I kind of anointed Ben Simmons a little bit earlier. I know that you didn't, as someone that lives in Philadelphia and has seen more of the games and seen some of the games in person. He was really exposed by Boston, and Brett Brown was exposed by Boston. Mostly with Simmons, his plus-minus was the worst on the team. They really struggled with him on the court because of his inability to shoot.
Yes and no. The inability to shoot was definitely a factor because of the way Boston has been able to defend. They can sag off and just kind of wall off the basket defensively so that he's forced to basically pass the ball and become a non-factor offensively, or at least scoring-wise. But the biggest problem Philadelphia I see for them going forward is, well, you often hear people compare Ben Simmons to Magic Johnson, which is an apt comparison. Taller point guard who has some shooting difficulties, but the ball handling, court vision, and everything else are all there. The one thing Magic Johnson had with him was a Michael Cooper or a Byron Scott who's able to lock down on smaller, quicker guards defensively. Now, if you saw any of that Philadelphia-Boston series, Terry Rozier was able to go pretty much wherever he wanted unless they had T.J. McConnell in the game, who has his own challenges on the other end of the court.
Right.
Making it difficult for the Sixers to keep a fully efficient unit on the floor at all times. Now, assuming Markelle Fultz is ever able to develop into what the team believes he can be, and then, you add a more athletic, more complete wing player to replace or at least upgrade from what Covington was giving you this year, and going forward, you should be in good shape. But
well, you mentioned Covington, if I can jump in. You mentioned Covington because he played relatively well during the regular season, but he really flamed out during the playoffs. I mean, he had a couple of stat lines, 0 points, 2 points, just a complete non-contributor. What are they going to do with Covington in that contract?
Well, they did just pay him during this season. They gave him an extension, but the contract was front-loaded. Well, where this season the Sixers had to work to get up to the league salary floor, he's not as big of a burden to go on the contract the salary cap going forward. The contract goes down some. So if they do end up keeping them or turning him into a bench piece, if they attract a high-level free agent at the position, it won't kill the team. In today's NBA, 10 to 12 million a year is not an overwhelming figure, and it's also not a too imposing a number if you do look to move on from at any point if you bring in a high-level free agent. So it
so for those
sounds worse
I'm sorry.
than it is.
For those
The
just
contract
tuning in,
yeah.
you're listening to Lance J Radio Network. I'm on the phone with Michael Jones Jr., the original co-host of Lance J Radio Network, also known as Jonesy, also host of the Jonesy and Kai Show, which was a short-lived, ephemeral podcast that we used to have on our network that Jonesy was too lazy to get together with Kai down at Delaware State, but we'll talk about that at a later date. He's kind of breaking down. He's in the Philadelphia metro area and breaking down what's going on with the Sixers. We have about a minute left. One of the things that I noticed that I don't really see a lot of people nationally getting into, I wasn't impressed with the way that Joel Embiid played, particularly on the offensive end. I think as a 7-footer, you can't shoot 10 of 26, 11 of 28 from the field. We have just a couple of seconds left. What are your thoughts around Joel Embiid?
The biggest thing with him is, if I'm going to get to it quickly, is conditioning. But one thing you noticed with Embiid a lot was that when the Sixers come down to run their offense, Embiid is trailing the play. He's the last one to get the offense. Mm-hmm. He's usually at the top of the key when they're already starting the offense, looking to run stuff. So rather than being at the post, he's at the top, and that turns him into a jump shooter instead of the dominant post player that you see. And Embiid mentioned that a lot in his end-of-season interview, that he needs to work on his conditioning.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta jump in and cut you off because we're about to go to a break, but conditioning will be a very key component to the Sixers' development. We'll have you back on the show, Jonesy. Back after these messages, Lance J Radio Network, NBC Sports.